all of our little microphone holders here are broken. So this is one that, is being, anyway, that's going to be funny. How am I going to do this? Anyway, I was preparing sermon this week, just like usual, and things were going fine. And then sometime like yesterday, I realized, I'm going to have to stand up in front of people and actually like talk to something other than a camera. And that's going to be very strange, not because I'm used to just staring at the camera. So here we are again. Wow, this is so cool. So this morning, the message is for the graduates, which, it's like pretty much all of us have graduated from something. Some of us are a bit on the short side to be, graduates yet. Do you have a kindergarten graduation at some point? Pre-K, kinder, yeah, well, maybe there's a graduation. Anyway, right, graduation. So the passages that we read this morning were from the lectionary. I didn't choose them specifically for graduates, and they're not sort of typical graduation kinds of passages, but they're still lessons even then. So our first story that Ace read was all about the Ethiopian eunuch, and there are some definite lessons in the Ethiopian eunuch story. However, I'm certainly not going to recommend becoming a eunuch as a career path. Because, well, for half of you, that's not possible anyway, and the other half, and if you don't know what the joke is, well, Google is your friend, right? So the Ethiopian eunuch. So a couple of things from the Ethiopian eunuch. First of all, he's a guy from Ethiopia, and he decides to go to Jerusalem to see what's going on there. He's probably Jewish by background. We don't know that for sure. But in any case, travel is a good thing. I think there is something inherently valuable about actually getting out and seeing the world. Because there are experiences you can have out there in the world that you just can't duplicate anywhere else. So a story. If you were in Accra this morning, in Ghana, you could walk down the street and there would be people out on the street, on pretty much any street you are in, anywhere near downtown at least, selling food. So there'd be the smell and the experience of watching people, and maybe they'd be roasting plantain, so there'd be fresh roasted plantain there, or they could be roasting groundnuts, or they could be boiling corn, and you can just sort of go and grab an ear of corn and eat it. I mean, obviously, if you pay them first, right? And all of this food is being prepared, and a lot of this food is being prepared either right beside or on top of open sewers, right? So it's a very interesting smell that you really, well, don't want to duplicate, but you probably can't even if you wanted to, right? So there's something also really nasty about recommending travel to a group of people who are in deeper debt than I even want to imagine, right? But the cool thing about being in a place like Morgantown and lots of other places in the world is that there are people from all over the world here already, right? And if you don't know any, Blair can certainly introduce you to a whole bunch. And Kim knows a bunch from school, and right, we all know people in Morgantown from all over the world. And you can find out a lot about the world and about yourself simply by getting to know them and asking them questions, right? One great question that works really well is, so what's the strangest thing? What was the hardest thing to get used to when you came to North America? Right? Because that way you learn something about their culture and something about your own, right? And one of the cool things about travel is that you get to learn a lot about yourself and about your own culture, things that you just sort of thought were normal, and you just discover that, right, they're not normal. So this guy traveled. And even when he traveled, he was on his way home and he still wanted to learn more. He was still studying, right, the prophet Isaiah as he was driving it. And that must have been like, right, no joke, right? Imagine you're in a chariot and it's going down the road and you're reading the prophet. I don't know how he was doing that, right? He must have been like really talented at this. But he's going down the road and he's reading the prophet Isaiah, right? And this is just a little reminder that, right, you need to learn, right? You need to keep learning, right? You're graduating and that's sort of like the end, right? Well, hopefully by now you know better than that this is just the beginning, right? This is a good start. I don't know, is there anyone here who's done learning? No. Okay, right. You're not done learning yet. Okay, right. Just a little reminder. This guy, he did the whole travel thing, right? He's got his job, he's got his career, right? And still learning, still curious. Curious gets you so far in the world. And curious gets you far, especially when you ask good questions. When you ask questions of people and you find mentors, right? Because one of the things you're going to discover as you go around in the world, and you probably already figured this out, is that there's a lot of people out there who have dumb answers, right? You ask them a good question and they just give you dumb answers. And so you stop asking them questions and you find somebody else. But one of the really cool things about the world that has changed in the last 20 or 30 years is that the age of mentors has dropped precipitously, right? When I grew up, the idea was that eventually, you're going to go through life and you're going to get all your experiences. And then someday when you're 50 or 60 or 70, you'll have wisdom to give to others. You become a mentor at that point, right? But the truth is that right now, becoming a mentor is something you can do at like 14, right? Because let's face it, if most of us today decided we wanted to really get on TikTok, who would we ask? Well, we probably wouldn't ask, yeah, exactly. We'd ask somebody who was, right, a lot younger than we are, right? Because, right, and so, right, you have this opportunity, even, right, you don't have to wait till you're 50 and 60 and 70 to become a mentor. This is an opportunity you have right now, and it's something you can do well. You can be that person who willingly gives intelligent answers, right, already. Don't wait. So the Ethiopian eunuch, he's done his traveling and he's still curious and he's found someone to ask good questions. And then once he's found his answer, he commits. And that's also a good thing. He decides, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get baptized and I'm going to join the Jesus movement. And then he's going to keep going. And we don't know anything else that happens. And we do know that there is a church in Ethiopia that claims that it's that old, right? That there's been a church in Ethiopia now for like 2,000 years plus, because they say, yeah, that was the start of the Ethiopian church. So they're pretty serious about this story, right? So he committed and, right, he couldn't sort of become part of a church because he was it in Ethiopia. So he made his own, right? He committed to something. So these are just some of the lessons we can learn by just watching the story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch. And then there's the passage that Ace just read from 1 John, right? This letter that somebody, the elder, wrote to his church. And the first thing we need to notice about this passage from 1 John is that we don't read all of 1 John. We just read select parts. Now, 1 John is a great book, right? Because it's got so much good advice and it's got, and it's so powerful on what it tells us about love. But it's worth understanding that there's parts of 1 John that we're never going to read in this church except right now. 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. Children, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Therefore we know it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us, but they went out. Probably the first and the last time you will hear that passage from this pulpit, at least as long as I'm here. I think the lesson here is that we filter. Even the Bible, we filter, right? And in a lot of ways, this is the goal of good education. The goal of good education today is to teach you how to filter. In my day, back when I was in school, the goal of good education was to teach you how to find good information. Well, now there is simply too much information out there Finding information isn't the hard part. Finding good information is the hard part. Finding correct information is the hard part, right? It's easy to find good information. It's easy to find crap, right? And so even here in church with a Bible, we filter. Filtering is very important. So that's our first lesson from 1 John, is that we're reading 1 John 4, not 1 John 2, although there's, again, really good stuff in 1 John 2, just not those two verses, at least not for us today. So, right, 1 John, ultimately, besides being about the Antichrist, is about love. Love, 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 love. Those are the themes of 1 John and the Gospel of John. And it's important to understand that as the Bible talks about love, it understands love as an action, not as a feeling. Love is not something you feel. Love is something you do. And right, whatever it is you go on to do in this world, you can also do love. Right? This is, you really can't go too wrong loving people. Really just sort of takes care of stuff. It also, and right, this is an action, so broadly defined, love is action that is done for the good of others. Right? Again, it's not about how you feel, right? You can do this when you're feeling lousy. You can do this when you're feeling rotten. You can do this when you're depressed. You can still act lovingly, right? Even on a bad day, you can act lovingly, right? You can fake love. It's the same thing. Did you know that? Right? So, love. And two things John mentions that kill love, and they are fear and hatred of people. Right? Perfect love casts out fear. Where there is love, there is no fear. Wow, what a huge message. And if you hate people, you can't love. Just those are opposite things. Right? You can't love God and hate your brother and your sister. It doesn't work. Right? You can, I think, hate ideas. Right? You can hate things. You can hate actions. It's people. So those are our lessons for today. Right? Keep learning and learn how to love. Right? One of the coolest things about the Bible's approach to love is that love is basically a skill set, which means that you can learn to do it and you can practice. You can get better at it. Right? So that is my official graduation sermon for today. It's just so great to see all of you and those of you on Zoom too. We have a closing song. Oh no, we have breakout rooms. I almost forgot. So Philip, you got breakout rooms? Let's go break out.